call this meeting of the Henry County Council on August 24th, 2023 to order. If you would please stand for the pledge, followed by prayer by Harold. I'm going to wait a few minutes for Donna Tauber, but have you had a chance to receive, read over, and comment to Debbie any corrections to the July minutes? If not, I'd accept a motion to approve. I heard Harold 1/2 second before Betsy. Betsy, is that a
second?
Betsy seconded. I heard no comments or corrections. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passes 7-0. We are going to go to the public hearing because it was advertised for 4 o'clock. If Donna Tauber comes, that would be great. You have in your packet, this is required by state law because the Henry County Waste Management falls under our jurisdiction. Are there any questions from the council? You have 3 pages that talks about the civil tax levy over 12 million, property tax cap credit over 2 million. Then it's broken down into numerous funds as delineated for these entities. Now the first page has, Debbie, question. First page has all these different things for the entire county. Are we to go over that or just the waste management? I have one. Yes. Yeah, you're doing public hearings for both the county and. Okay. Well, okay, the county, I'm not going to read this because this would take an hour and a half, so I'm not going to read every line in the spreadsheet, but the main one is the general fund budget estimate of over 18 million. We have highway over 2.6 million. We got local road and street. There's a bond that's 1.7 million, another bond that's over 1.76 million. We have cumulative bridge listed. Low HUD is 2.3 million. Lit correctional facilities 1.9 million. MH motor vehicle highway restricted is 2.2 million. We have CCD, the park, emergency services over 800,000. Other big ones, county surveyor perpetuation, 132.5 thousand. Our 911 landline, 917.8 thousand. And those are the big ones, totaling budget proposal of $38,798,719 for 2024. Any questions, comments, council? Any comments from, let me back up, open this hearing. Any questions from the council? Any questions from the public? Yes, Harold. It's up to you, but if you've had a chance, this was sent out Monday by Debbie, if you've had a chance to read it and answer your questions, yes, but follow your conscience on that. Okay, follow your conscience. Let's see, fine. If not, for the public or the council, all in favor of passing this notice of taxpayers of the Henry County budget, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstain, one. Passes 6 with 1 abstention. Okay, now waste management is the other part of this. And this is, again, they're under our jurisdiction as per state law. This is the Henry County Solid Waste Management District of Henry County. They have, much simpler than the counties, they have a special solid waste management fund. And for 2024, it is $346,060. Donna is not here. Melissa's not here. I used to. Mike sits on
Mike,
it.
yeah.
Any questions for Commissioner Plummer or Mike relating to the $346,060? I don't recall what it was last year. Is this a slight?
It's very similar
Very
to
similar?
last year's.
Okay. Okay. Questions for Bobby or Mike? If not, give me ample time. Any comments or questions from the public? If not, all in favor of passing the waste management budget for 2024 as presented and as you have before you, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Nay? Passes 6 with 1 abstention. Okay. Next, we have Corey Murphy for an EDC update, and I think he passed out a handout with a survey and a QR code.
Good afternoon, Council. Our region is in the midst of planning for READY 2.0. By way of reminder, READY is a state program. It's competitive. In the last General Assembly, they approved $500 million for this program. Our region will put together an investment plan. The final details will come out from the state on September 1st. But we expect the final application to be due towards the end of the year, maybe in January if they're feeling nice. But there's an ongoing effort to engage the community, engage elected officials. So I've given to you an opportunity to complete a survey. There's a QR code there. If you don't like QR codes, the web link is there also. And then at the bottom of that sheet is a website for the program in general, so 4gci.com/ready. If you are aware of a project and think it might qualify for READY, I'm open to receiving that information. There will be a call for projects. I'm not sure how wide it will be. If you remember last year, it was an open call. And across the region, we had 140 projects. And so the feedback from the reviewers was, we had a lot of great projects, but it lacked clarity. You know, what did you really want us to fund? So we're going to try to narrow it down. The main difference between READY 1.0 and READY 2.0 is this is fully state dollars. So READY 1.0 was ARP dollars, the same exact source of your ARP. So there was some specific performance requirements that needed to be followed. So with this being state dollars, those will be a little different. And then in round one, they would fund programs. Round two, they will not fund programs. So this is bricks and mortar, capital projects only. An example of a project depending on some details being worked out, is the annex building. If that can move through the legal process and get into friendly hands meaning a developer capable of doing the job, that would be a fantastic ready project. State Road 109, water and sewer. It received $1 million in round one. That is a $25 million project. And so I think more funding for the 109 corridor would be another example. I know Middletown is working on essentially replacing their sewer plant. And so I think that could be a potential. None of this is guaranteed, by the way, but if you don't put in a good project, then the answer is going to be no. So you'll hear me talk about ready. I'm already tired of talking about ready, but we're going to continue to move through the process and try to to provide as many updates as possible. Focusing in on 109, not from a ready perspective, but a resident along that corridor called my office a few months ago, maybe even close to a year ago. Time flies. But he said, this gentleman used to serve on the Planning Commission many, many, many years ago. And he goes, have you thought about doing a corridor study? And I said, no, I haven't. He goes, well, you should. You ought to do a corridor study. And so I reached out to a vendor and got a proposal. Talked to the town of Knightstown. They are interested. Talked to the Redevelopment Commission, the County Redevelopment Commission. They're interested. And then I've also mentioned it to the commissioners at their last meeting, because ultimately the study would look at land use planning and make some recommendations on how to prepare that corridor for growth. And so, not that the commissioners would, or the Planning Commission would agree to everything in the study, but we want to make sure that they're interested in pursuing that. And I'm going to follow up with the commissioners at a future meeting. I'm just providing this to you as an FYI. I also work with Tom Green at Planning and Zoning. So when that water and sewer gets extended, that will be a source of development and growth for our county, including residential along that corridor. And so I think we ought to be ready. And I think doing a study from a land use perspective will help us do that. On a tourism update, we are hosting a travel rider in the coming weeks. It is a way to get earned media. So you invite the travel rider into your community, you pay for their accommodations, their meals, they experience the county, and then they write about it. And so it's a pretty effective way to get earned media from a tourism standpoint. So this will be the first one we've done, and if it goes well, we'll do it again next year. April 8th, 2024. It's going to get dark around here. And there's going to be a lot of people. A lot of people. I'm thinking about leaving town because there's going to be so many people. But hoopsandhenry.com, you can go to that website and you can learn about what we're doing to prepare for the solar eclipse. We are not sponsoring or creating an event by ourselves, but we want to market other people's events. So, for example, Summit Lake State Park is planning an event. I believe Memorial Park is looking to plan an event. There's some discussions in Knightstown about an event. You're going to hear about that as well. That is a Monday, I believe. Most of our restaurants a good portion of our restaurants are closed on Monday. So we want to talk to them in advance, right? And even if the restaurants are open, right, we want to make sure that they have staff. I'm sure that from a law enforcement perspective and a public safety perspective, you know, I know the EMA directors, it's on their radar. So I wanted to put it on your radar. Man, Corey, it's August and you're talking about April, but it'll be here before we know it. I'm going to stop there. If you have any questions, maybe I didn't cover something.
You and I sat at the same table up at Ball State. Do you want to share a snippet of what that was about?
So Kenan and I were amongst about 115 other people.
Travis was there.
Travis was there also, and it was a ready forum to build consensus across the region about our opportunities and about our challenges. And so there were probably 7 people from our county engaged in that. So it was a good exercise. We'll do another one later on in the fall.
Pardon me. Debbie, could you turn on one of those air conditioners, please? Thank you. Pardon me.
No, that's fine. That's all I can recall. I've slept since then, Kenan.
Glad you get to sleep.
Thanks for the opportunity to update. Appreciate the ongoing support from county government.
I'll simply say I did the survey this morning because I saw it on some website. I don't know if it's tourism or economic development or chamber or one of the others, but it took less than 5 minutes, and it's a really good, well-done survey. So I would encourage you to take that. So
Thank you.
I like the broadband survey, so Henry County will have some good representation out of the, whatever, 8 counties, whatever it is. So thank you. Shonda with a chamber update.
Hi, good afternoon. I want to make everyone aware that 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Yep. Is this better? Okay. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, Chamber Conference Room. The Chamber Workforce Development Committee will be meeting. If you're familiar with Career Day, that happens every May. That encourages our high school students to explore different careers, get a feel for those careers before they continue on with their education, trade school, what have you. That committee is meeting again tomorrow at 10. Anyone's welcome to join that committee. Some of its goals are population retention. As we know, as the population declines, what can we do to bring the youth back once they go off, get their continued education, return, one of those efforts. And some of the spurs that have come out of that was the Youth Ambassador Program this year. You may recall that. I think some of those young folks might have attended a meeting, so that was a spur as well. Along with the career coaches in the schools. That was very early conversations there at the Chamber. So just invite you 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, take part in that. Also, our awards gala. I know that's in March, but nominations are open and they have started coming in. So we're pleased to see a great response to that as that grows in the community. We want to recognize those that are doing great things. September 9th, you've probably been hearing about the Cash Bonanza, the Viva Las Vegas Cash Bonanza. September 9th, we still have a few tickets left if you have an interest in that, because what happens at Cash Bonanza stays at Cash Bonanza. Our special guest will be Elvis, so don't want to miss Elvis. They say he's dead, but he's going to be at Cash Bonanza, so I don't know. Another new program we've had is the Women's Network, the Chamber Women's Network. You may have seen that. They're meeting every other month. Our next one, October 6th. This is free to Chamber members. The public is welcome. It's just $10. The next speaker will be Melissa True. And what this group is women mentoring, supporting women. Another thing that has come out of that group, is the Wedges and Wine. So some of the discussion at this group has been golf outings and networking for businesses through these type of functions, but they don't know what to do at a golf outing. Most women, not all, but most, don't play golf. So this will be golf instruction, wine, and dinner. So that is September 20th. And December 7th is Christmas Walk. I know it's hotter than heck outside, but we're thinking Christmas Walk because we already have several vendors registered. Those started coming in about a month ago, so I think it's going to be a great Christmas walk this year. Again, it's December 7th. And then my last item is December 14th, our chamber lunch. We'll be hosting Lieutenant Governor Crouch for our December 14th lunch. And we're building our calendar for 2024. Have any suggestions for next year? Just let us know. But no more events. We don't want any more events.
Two of the 7 or 8 at our table from Henry County were interns. Robert and Emily attended the event at Ball State on the Ready
Oh, really?
2.0.
Good.
They contributed mightily to the younger generation's thought patterns and priorities. It was really good to see them. And I would put Travis in the younger generation compared with me and some of the others around the table. You know, younger generations under 60. It's all relative. Yes, so older than dirt.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. I wrote down a lot of notes, and I assume they're all on your website as well. Okay. We have mentioned and carried over from last month sick time payout for retiring officer David. I'm working off of 2 sets of papers and 3 notebooks up here. And they're later. Okay. And Sheriff, you may want to comment here in a few moments. This is to inform council members that David Kindred turned in his retirement notice on Friday, July 21st this year. Effective immediately, Mr. Kindred has served Henry County government since August 28th of 2000. And he's done so in various capacities and also recently in the sheriff's office, and total 23 years. For us, our consideration is sick time payout of 640 hours at the hourly rate noted for a total of $15,257.60. And that's 20 years of consecutive service. And Sheriff Sprouse concluded the write-up as I wish Dave well on his future endeavors and all the best for his future. Any comments, Sheriff Sprouse?
I'd just like to publicly thank him for his service, 21 years. Dave had a very strong work ethic, and tough to lose him. Obviously, 21 years of experience, that's a tough loss as well. So just want to say thanks, and again, all the best to him, and we will miss his work ethic, and we'll miss his one. Dave was known for some pretty interesting one-liners that were pretty funny, so I'll miss that because I have a humorous side to me, but all the best to Dave.
Thank you. Any comments from council?
I would just like to thank David Kindred as well for his service to the county and make a motion to approve sick payout of $15,257.60.
It's been moved to
Second.
And seconded by Betsy. Any other comments, questions? If not,
I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the auditor, do we have dollars in there to pay this out, or in our sick time? We're getting close, I know, so we got this covered. More, nobody else is allowed to retire through the end of the year. Got it.
good
Thank you.
luck with that. Yeah, we're finding several funds getting very close, which we'll discuss in a few minutes. It's been moved and seconded, and if there's no further comments, all in favor of this sick time payout for David Kindred, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. And thank him on behalf, Sheriff of the Henry County Council, please. Next, we have approval of expenditures of opioid monies. We have a letter from Angela Cox, Henry County Health Department, pertaining to part of this, and the other part is in Exhibit A that was provided by Attorney Joel Harvey. This is relating to Jamie Owens, which I think most of you have met, and if you've not attended a JCAP graduation, I would highly recommend that you do so. They had their third one recently. And she's proposing that to keep continuity in that program, to provide an annual salary of $75,000 divided by 26 pays. And for the exhibit for the opioid monies, we're looking at $40,000 utilized. That's already been approved by the commissioners, in addition to the $100,000 that also have been approved by the commissioners to replace and repair the roof at the guest house. Both of those fall under the parameters of the opioid settlement monies. Angela's here. Would you like to comment about the success of the JCAP program or anything else that I know Bobby's attended? Okay. I would encourage you again to advertise and encourage you to attend the JCAP. You'll see the worth of the program in just a few moments by listening to some of the graduates. I think it's been a very successful program, and we commend Angela for her willingness to put together this recommendation, partially paid out of the state monies, your budget, correct? Oh, okay. I didn't fully understand her. This is in Angela's July 26th letter. So it's all out of opioid.
For the remainder of the year and then next year.
Well, you were, but we had 30 budget hearings, so
Okay.
I've slept since then.
So what I'm asking for out of opioid money is to bring Jamie Owens on full-time between now and the end of the year, which I don't have funds out of my account to do that. And then, as we spoke at the budget hearing, we put that position into my budget with the additional funds that I'm getting from the state, yes. So beginning first or second pay period in January, just kind of depends on the state. I gave myself a little week buffer there. So what I'm asking you to vote on is what Joel's put together for the $40,000 for me to bring Jamie on now, full-time, and we'll pay everything out of that to include health insurance.
Any questions about that? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So this approval of expenditures of revenues, abatement share restricted from the opioid settlement monies. The county council approves the expenditures of revenues received from the settlement of claims against opioid manufacturers and distributed as set forth on Exhibit A, as previously approved by the Board of Commissioners. The sum of $100,000 shall be utilized for the repair and replacement of the roof on the guest house building. Number two, the sum of $40,000 shall be utilized for the payment of Jamie Owens' salary and benefits through December 31st, 2023, and to acquire a computer for Owens's use. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Moved by Kyle,
Second.
seconded by Betsy. Any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. Thank you, Angela, for the clarification. I'll try not to sleep between now and August 4th next year. Okay, let's see. We have next an ordinance 2023-5, ordinance amending the 2023 salary ordinance to provide a special traffic safety and enforcement detail overtime rate. This one, I'll probably have some questions for Joel, and maybe some other council members do too. He and I spoke a little bit before a meeting that I went into this afternoon. This is an ordinance amending the 2023 salary ordinance to provide for a special traffic safety and enforcement detail overtime rate. You can read over and follow with me. Whereas the Henry County Sheriff's Department has obtained or is in the process of obtaining grant funding through the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute for the payment of overtime compensation to officers performing overtime work that is focused on traffic enforcement and safety. And whereas the Henry County Council has determined that a special overtime rate for the officers working overtime shifts focused on traffic safety and related duties and the enforcement of traffic laws in order to incentivize officers to perform this additional work. And be it ordained, ordinance 2022-16 is hereby amended as follows, and you can follow along. It references $50 per hour. All other provisions of ordinance number 2022-16 as amended shall remain in full effect. There's a repealer, severability, and effective date would be upon passage. And we open it up for questions. And Joe answered a few of mine, and you may have similar questions.
So what's the status of the grant right now that would pay this overtime?
I believe that's out of Aries funds. So I'm not sure what the status of the funding is right now. But we were losing. We were not. I guess the guys were not incentivized enough to put a lot of hours in, and we're starting to get less and less money through the grant. So, kind of hoping that this will boost it back up. And we're just following suit with the city. I assume this is probably just like the city ordinance. Yeah.
So when we pass this today, do we have to start compensating at $50 an hour before the grant monies come in?
It's just based on availability of grant monies. We check and see how much is in there, and then so we don't just work. And if the grant money's not there, we're not working it out of general.
Joel, is it a possibility we could consider passing this contingent upon receiving of the grant? Budgeted out of general fund.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be whatever the budget for salaries and all that.
It's
Yeah, I think
it's similar. It's again, it's out of Aries money, so it's not. I don't have a fear of our guys going out and working this. It's something that is controlled internally. Hey, there's either funds available or there's not. So
if there's no grant funds, nobody's
We
going to
don't
do this program.
we don't put officers out working that when there's nothing available.
So is there confusion then? I mean, because officers go out anyways to do traffic patrol.
Yeah, this is
that-
this is a whole different, it's just a separate item, if you will. And again, it's based on, hey, guys, there's X amount of dollars in that fund. You know, we can work 24 hours next week. Here's a sign-up sheet. And so that's how it's controlled. Obviously, I wouldn't want our officers out doing that if there's no money for it and it comes out of salaries. We don't have enough to fund that anyway. So it's controlled internally. I don't see that we would need, you know, at least on our end, I don't see we'd need any kind of additional language there.
With this Indiana Criminal Justice Institute, would they not consider us if we didn't have such an ordinance in place?
The feedback I got when I went through it was you can't tie it just to our funding. It has to be what you're paying on uniform. I mean, it has to be a uniform rate, so to speak, for this special type of duty. If you do that, that's fine. But you can't. In the example I gave, the work stocking and the thing, it's $1,000 an hour.
I have, I'm fully in favor of it. I just have, the language says traffic enforcement and safety. Is that their language or our language? Because can't we just say if they're doing work related to this program or Aries-sponsored program? Or I'm concerned about the language because traffic enforcement and safety is kind of what they do every day.
It's a traffic safety improvement program grant.
It's specifically traffic. It's specialty traffic, maybe I should say specified traffic enforcement. If we're going to go work this certain area, so I understand. Yeah. Yeah, it's a specialty, I don't want to say item. I get what you're saying about I did traffic enforcement all day. I would need $50 an hour. What is the city, I assume? I do not. I can't answer that. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes. It's something a lot of times we do with the city because I think that they get the funds and then the funds, I believe that they are the one that controls, and I can't speak with certainty here on that, but I believe they control that fund, but that may very well not be accurate. But it is a specialty item. Again, I understand clearly what you're saying, but it's not something that, I mean, the city has had this in place now for quite some time. I'm not aware of any issues they've had of where somebody's came back and said, you know, I did traffic enforcement all day, I needed $50 an hour. It's
Yeah,
a specified.
I don't want it to be interpreted as I'm questioning the integrity of you or any of your officers. I'm just a big favor of having it plainly and clearly spelled out in the ordinance as to what it's for. So if there's changes we could make to make that happen, I think we should table it and make it happen and approve this at the next meeting. That's my personal opinion. And Joel, do you think we can make clarification language to make it feasible?
Look into it. I mean, because it's been, like I said, some time since I did a similar ordinance for the city, and I know that we got some feedback from the sitting here right now.
Okay.
Find that out.
Well, I'd like to move that we table this till the next meeting.
It looks like October 1st is when the award period begins. So we'll have another meeting prior to then to get it approved.
Well, and that was why the question I think was asked was the application dependent on this ordinance being passed? It doesn't sound like it is.
The application would have been submitted by August 11th.
So the application's already in, and we have time then, is what I'm hearing from you, Kyle.
Presuming it's the 2024 Traffic Safety Improvement Program through ICJI, then yeah.
I needs to be approved today. I'm just wondering if we could possibly approve it with
Conditionally.
with conditional approved language, so.
That was my question with Joel earlier, if it could be conditional. That's what I said to Joel earlier. I asked if it could be done conditionally. You have a motion. Do you want-
I'll withdraw the motion.
Do I have a new motion?
I was going to ask Joel, are you comfortable with this ordinance written the way that it is?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I think it's very similar to the one that the city passed, if not identical to it. And I haven't heard of any problems necessarily, but I think what the issue that came about with that was the city and a couple past years had grant funding, but then ran into the inability of being able to get officers to fill those shifts because they were able to do off-duty work and pay more. And so the chief went to the officers and said, what will it take?
What if I'm... Okay, I didn't hear you. So what if I made a motion that I would move to approve ordinance number 2023-5 with Joel researching the possibility of clarifying the program details in the ordinance?
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other comments, questions, additions, subtractions? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. Thank you.
Sheriff, we passed it conditionally upon Joel figuring out that language.
Okay, thank you, council. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Sheriff. We have a discussion of taking utilities and uniforms from the 2023 jail lit, and I think, what did I skip? Page 2, set. That was not intentional, Angela.
So this is for this year.
Okay, we have a salary ordinance that we received, and then I think within a day, we received a little bit of an update. And this is for a full-time registered nurse, $26.37 an hour. Part-time PRN registered nurse for $26 an hour. A part-time local public health coordinator assistant for $18 an hour. Angela's here if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Susan and seconded by Mike. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Angela's still here if you have any. Otherwise, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Update.
Okay, so I just want to clarify, speaking to Captain Pierce, you're wanting to simply differentiate this from normal patrol duties, correct? Is that, we're looking for a phrase to,
I'd just like the
It's
language
possible.
to be specific as to what this is supposed to be used for.
Yeah.
That's all.
yes, I'm following, and so Captain Matt will get a hold of you. I have got to step out to another meeting. Is there anything, I didn't look at this paper, anything else that I am needed here for? Is that okay?
That I'm aware of, unless any other council member has questions for the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the work the Sheriff's Department does to keep our citizens safe. I would say the same for EMS and fire and all those emergency services. Again, I'm working off of 2 Now, back to what we were talking about earlier. I'm going back to my second set. Discussion of taking utilities and uniforms from the 2023 jail lit. I know anything that we do with the jail lit has to have a 12-day. We discussed this before, a 14-day public notice, or 12-day. Okay. This was recommended to put on our itinerary by Shannon, so I'm going to turn it over to you to give the rationale.
Yeah, I'll share my thoughts and happy to answer questions or attempt to. After our budget hearings, having moved a number of things over to the jail lit, and then noting how quickly the utilities expenses were rising, and uniform expenses not necessarily rising, but still coming in this year, my thought was, why would we continue to erode the general fund by $100,000 in additional utilities expenses when we could potentially move those expenses over to the jail lit this year? We had moved some of those. I don't know that we moved utilities to the jail lit in the budget, but we could pay that out of jail lit, and there are dollars in the jail lit fund that could pay that for this year. So I wanted to bring that proposal to the council. We have moved uniforms for 2024. I know that. Utility expenses could be paid out of the jail lit for the jail, and I can't for the life of me figure out why we wouldn't do that instead of burning through dollars in the general fund. So I think we could do that. It'll take us telling the auditor that we would like to do that, and she will bring back additional appropriations changes for us in September. But I didn't want her to do it and then say, Shannon told me to do it, which would have been how it would have worked. So wanted to open it up to the full council, be transparent with what I was asking of her, and get your thoughts if we want her to do that or not.
Ken, did you get your questions answered about how much we have to hold in jail lit?
What I got answered, and maybe Debbie can help me here. We get a monthly amount, say that 1.7 million in revenues from the jail lit. We get monthly, so whatever that 1.7 million divided by 12 is, we get monthly. We need to have a buffer in there. My last calculation, we have about 500,000 we could tap and safely leave a buffer of a payment. And you said the payments are. It is. Right.
You know, our report shows $3.55 million in that fund at the end of 2024, estimated. Or, I'm sorry, end of 2023 to start 2024, which if we've got to keep one payment in there of $1.7 million, and that's what I'm asking. We have to have one payment on hand and then be able to make the payments with the dollars coming in. So if it's 1.5, then we need to have $2.5 million roughly sitting in that account to be able to cover, which leaves $1 million at the end of this year that we could use to pay utilities. And we will all need to be cognizant that we can't do that forever, right? You can't just continue to pay utilities out of jail lit perpetually. It's going to have to be a short-term thing that we can use some of that excess to be able to pay those utilities till such time when the jail lit is not capable of doing that.
Ladies first. Do you have a question? Oh, my question is, of the 1.7 million that we have to pay in lease payments, how often is that paid? So half of that's paid. So, okay. So 850,000 plus 860,000 once every 6 months, and we need to put another 860 on top of that 1.7, which is 2.6. That sounds right, 860 something. So times 3 is what? Chad's not here, so I'm not the human. Okay. So given that, we're okay.
Now, there is a limitation, I think, in the statute of jail lit, only 20% of the revenue.
That's been changed, it's legislative change. They actually removed it altogether. Initially, they were talking about 30. They took the limit off as far as operational expenses.
When is that effective, though? Is that for?
July 1, I believe. We might want to look into that to make, yeah, look into that.
We'd appreciate that. That was our understanding, is that it was lifted July 1.
A lot of the decisions made in our budget hearings was based on taking that limit off. That's why we had more monies in the general fund for possible raises. So that's an important question to have answered. But I was told that from the ICCA Legislative Committee that, and from Ryan Hoff, that limit was removed altogether. He confirmed that, but I wouldn't mind a triple check because it'll make a big difference as to what happens.
So I'd make a motion that we do, as suggested, and advertise for an additional appropriation to the jail lit, just so long as that restriction has been lifted in July for our next council meeting.
Second.
Both for this year, yeah. Yep, okay.
It's been moved by Susan, seconded by Shannon. I have a question also. I'm looking at the budget status that Debbie sent us on the 21st, a couple of days ago, and it shows utilities already at 99.23% of budget. I'm trying to find, uniforms is right above it, and it shows 100%. So that was only 19.5 rounded. So that's a much smaller amount than, so that's what we're talking about, those two line items, the 2,000.08 and the 3,000.03 as utilities, correct? But those are the two, those are uniforms and.
Uniforms and utilities, yes.
Okay. Does everybody understand? Now's the time for questions. It would free up quite a bit. And we do have the money, the balance we determined contingent upon the operational being lifted off the 20%. Okay. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Opposed, nay? Passes 7-0. Thank you. And we'll have to monitor that because, like you said, it can't be a long term. But
Correct.
But I guess the next discussion is we do have several shortfalls and upcoming additional, including the coroner, legal, which we knew about. But this shortcoming is going to be in 2023. In a note that email that Debbie sent today, it's averaging around $15,000 a month in the legal line of commissioners, so that's going to be eaten up.
15,000, that was secure bed, if I put it as legal, sorry, secure bed, that was 15,000.
Okay, yeah, I did say legal. Okay. You already asked about the other, but that'll be another item coming up. Negative for coroner is going to be 30,000, and you projected an additional appropriation request coming in our September meeting.
Bobby and I talked about it, and we think that this Bobby.
Oh, I didn't know which Bobby to look. One with the I and one with the IE. Okay, the one with the IE.
We think that
Okay. So, council wish to follow the recommendation of our auditor after
Yes.
talking to Bobby with an IE?
And then we can talk about if there is any safety lit money or if it should come from the general fund at the end of the year. Yeah.
we're
Okay. Then the other one was what, last year we were paying for inmate housing, this year we're paying for youth housing because of closure of YOC, correct? Is that the same line? Secure beds. Okay. And that's in the commissioners? Okay.
Are we going to get to where we can't find places for them, or is it not, it's just going to be expensive? That's not a good sign.
Okay. Bobby with an eye.
Both. The answer is both.
Because they
They're
were,
expensive and it's not unique to our county. All the counties are experiencing the same thing, locating beds. A lot of it is staffing issues. A lot of the facilities have staffing issues. Muncie went down in the number of beds available because of staffing issues. I'm sorry, please. And no females. Yeah, being able to place a female somewhere is really difficult right now. So, but we're working on some things, so.
On the, thank you. Has there been any more discussion concerning the present building out here?
We're working through some things to see if it's feasible to do anything, so we're working on some things.
That might be a good thing if we can get that going.
Yep, well,
Work on
everybody
it.
has to have a money tree.
Open it up and we can charge $100 a day.
But we are working on some things to try to alleviate the situation.
Good. Thank you, Bobby with an eye. So, a discussion I had with you, Debbie, yesterday, was that one of the judges indicated he's really concerned about this and future. We have one individual, it's a matter of public record now, who's a juvenile that's going to be waived to adult court. Is that something that can be legally looked at as far as inmate housing like we had last year? Because that's a tremendous daily bin sins, I think. That's a tremendous. Is that even something that's legally feasible, and will it make a difference?
When you say inmate housing, paying it out of the funds you have reserved for inmate housing or what?
I don't know. I'm just throwing out.
No, I mean, I think if you're under 18 years of age, you have to be held in a certain type of
Okay.
facility. And I think,
Okay.
yeah, that's what makes it more expensive is that you can't be held in a regular adult facility.
And that's why we're paying so much. Okay. And it's an issue that at least one of the judges, probably all the judges that are aware of this situation and the commissioners are concerned about, that we need to maybe relook that budget line before we pin it.
Are we okay for the remainder of this year? So is that a additional appropriation that we need to look at in September, in November? Okay, so that was part of that one, okay.
So
Thank you.
it's the same as the other. Okay. So expect additional appropriations of a significant amount. And of course, a year ago, when we were considering the 2023 budget, we were singing hallelujah, we don't have all this inmate housing in South Bend and Blackford County and wherever.
and we raised secure detention, but nowhere near what
we
it's going
raised
to
it.
take for the year.
We had
Yeah.
no forecasting or fine-tuned crystal ball about the YOC decision. No one did. So we need to budget for a higher class, more expensive crystal ball.
So for clarification, next year we've got 300,000, I think was one of the numbers. And then we were looking at an additional 15,000 a month for the rest of this year, then going forward, correct? So then what, 12 times 15, what, 180 on the 300, 480? So I'm just putting numbers out there to help cement it into my brain. Okay, so even more on top of the 480 then, okay.
So I think currently we have people housed, or juveniles housed in Muncie, Vincennes, Johnson County? Is that right, Debbie? Johnson and maybe Hamilton? Down in Vincennes and Muncie and Hendricks. So it just depends on where we can find the placement for, and how long they're going to be, because some aren't there as long as others, depending upon what their needs are. So it's really difficult to pinpoint. We thought when we raised it to $100,000 last year that we were going to be golden, you know, but you can't ever predict, and, you know, we need to keep all of our juveniles safe, no matter where they are, so.
Did we not move, I'm trying to find it, that secured detention, safety lit, that's what I'm trying to find. And it was 300,000. It says from commissioner's budget to, and that was what took us down to about our safety limit of what we felt comfortable leaving a decent balance. Good. We just have to look at it in November. We're going to expect a long meeting in November with lots of additional appropriations, just heads up. Any other questions, comments on that subject, council? Okay. I think before the meeting, I think we discussed that Susan, Shannon, and I will meet with you and Bobby with an IE to go over the line department by department, because things got a little harried at the very end the last 2 days, and make sure we're on the same page before we do a final and consideration in either September and or October, to be determined. Okay, that's FYI for the whole council. I do want to comment. I'm just going to make a few comments. Yesterday was a DLGF common budget mistakes. I thought that was directed at council. This is directed at the hard work that our auditors and other people that make all these forms. It just left head spinning of all the knowledge and input that has to go into these numerous budget forms. They sent out an email today from DLGF, and they provided all the PowerPoints and the actual video. I would suggest that you go and look at it, because I think it'd give a greater appreciation of what some of our departments have to do to prepare the information that we have to consider for our budget hearings and beyond. So thank you.
Tell me again where I'd find those videos, please.
DLGF sent out in Henry County email, because you should all be on that mail list. Yeah. And they usually only send that out if you registered, and I talked to the lady. I said, I can't make it because I have a meeting in the afternoon one, and I didn't make it the morning one. She said, well, if you registered, you'll get all that. It came out today. So if you don't have it, it's on the website, or see me, because they sent it to me after I said, I really want to see this. Okay. I highly recommend it. Also, I encourage you to view live stream, YouTube live stream of yesterday's presentations. It was very good. They some good information that, like ARP and what we consider today after the commissioners on the opioid. Inform yourselves. They're proposing a women's transition center, house, facility, like the guest house. We do not have anything for women. Oh, well, she recommended at the end not to start with families. That's the only reason I said that. Okay, I'm thinking families. She said, don't start out with families. Okay, but it will allow women. Most of hers are women. And we have nothing for women. I know that's something that Sheriff McCorkle was really pushing and fought hard last year, because she saw the effect it had on the women and families, and JB sees that on those that are graduating as well in the JCAP program. So encourage you to see that. It's posted online, because I've gone back and saw that it was posted online. Our next council meeting is on Friday, September 29th at 4 o'clock.
Ken, and I have a question about that. If we look at our budget documentation that we considered earlier, the adoption meeting date is scheduled at Friday, September 29th, 2023 at 3 p.m. And I have it on my calendar at 3 p.m. from when we discussed moving that meeting the last time. So,
Oh, because somebody said, do we have to do it that late on a Friday?
something like that.
We could still do it at 2 because you guys more than likely will still be here at 3. You could break the meeting at 3 o'clock for the public hearing. It doesn't have to be at the very beginning.
What would be at 2?
Is that what you're talking about? You talked about
Well, I had suggested 2 o'clock for the meeting today or last time, but only if it works for other people, our September meeting. It's on a Friday, so we had said maybe do it earlier.
Okay. Mike, you will or will not be able to make it if it's earlier than 4? You're off Fridays? Okay, so that would work. So nobody's complaining about an earlier than normal meeting on a Friday?
He's on vacation.
Oh, you're on vacation. You can't do that. I'm kidding. You can't be sick, you can't go, no. We're good. It's hard to get all 7 of us here. Is that going to be okay? Because that's not okay normally. Is it 2 or 3? What do we land on?
I'm voting for 2.
Okay, I'll need to get back with Angela because I told her 4 yesterday and that,
So just to clarify, we're meeting as a council, our next regular meeting is Friday, September 29th at 2 p.m.
yes.
Okay.
29th because of AIC, which I would encourage you to sign up for. I did not for 4 years. I did last year and it's well worth it. Networking is well worth it, but the information.
I wanted
2
to,
p.m., 29th.
how's our budget for that?
Well, there's new Two. 2.
With the actual budget adoption at 3. Travis?
Yes. Yes. Do we need to make a motion, or are we just discussing it? 2 and 3. Because everyone seemed to be in agreement except those going on vacation. I do encourage you, as far as money, I think that was brought up. The legislation also passed that the Recorder's Perpetuation Fund or Election Official Training Fund, council's been added to that. So between what we have budgeted and between what is the Recorder's fund for training, we should have adequate money because she has over. Oh, Department of State Board of Accounts.
Yeah, they're only for state call meetings, they're not for AIC meetings.
Well, darn. So to answer Kyle's question, our monies,
Yeah, we can take those kind of trainings out of unappropriated money.
okay. And that looked pretty healthy the last time I actually looked this week. Okay, the answer to your question is there's monies for that. I would encourage, I didn't for first 4 years, last year I did, and I would recommend, I said, it's worth it in networking alone, but there's good training, if you can. I'm going to sign up for probably 2 of the 3 days. Anything else, council? Anything else, public? Commissioners? Media? Attorney? Bobby with an IE?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second. Oh, yes, hallelujah. Have a good weekend. Oh, and a good Friday. Sign before you leave, please.